Hi everyone, warm welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah and I've been teaching yoga ever since I was 18, so a little over 2 years now. I teach the 26 and 2, also known as Bikram yoga, and earth yoga, which is very similar. It's a hatha sequence that has a lot of the same principles, a lot of the same postures. If you want another video on what earth yoga is, please let me know. But I'm very excited for today's video because today we're gonna specifically be talking a little bit more about the Bikram dialogue. So I did my training in Sweden, and if you also want another video on why I didn't do my training with Bikram, please also let me know. My dialogue specifically is very similar to the Bikram dialogue. Now, the Bikram dialogue is very long. If one were to say the whole Bikram dialogue in a class, it would for sure run over 90 minutes. It just has so many instructions that are so specific and kind of particular. My training specifically took out some of the fluff out of the Bikram dialogue, kept most of the structure the exact same, most of the dialogue the exact same, but due to copyright issues, we did have to change some words, some phrases here and there. But the bulk is very similar to the Bikram dialogue, and I actually do have access to the original Bikram dialogue as well. But today we're going to be analyzing a few of the postures. I'll be explaining a little bit deeper what the dialogue means and how you should be practicing these postures according to, of course, the original Bikram dialogue. Before we begin with the first posture, I want to explain a little bit of the role of a teacher. So one of the things that we have to do in adjusting students is to put out the fires in the room. So I will never go adjusting a more advanced practitioner that maybe can get a little more gain out of a little adjustment when I see that there is someone that is doing something that is potentially dangerous for their body and for their practice. So we always kind of prioritize putting out those fires in the room. Now this is exactly what we're going to do with this first posture, because this is a big mistake that I always see in classes that I go to, in my own classes, and I always make sure to correct this. So this is very important. We're going to be talking about Dandayamana Vibhakta Para Paschimottanasana, so standing separate leg stretching. The thing that I'm talking about, the fire that we must be putting out, is specifically we must keep the legs straight in this posture. So the Bikram dialogue says, make sure your knees are locked throughout the posture. First your legs are stretching, then hips are stretching, then lower spine stretching, then the whole spine is stretching. So the legs come first. First the legs are stretching. For the average person, when one gets into this posture, of course one will feel it in the hamstrings. It's completely normal. Probably their spine will be very rounded, but with time, as the legs open up, then we can start to move the stretch a little bit higher into the hips. Then, yes, the lower spine, then the upper spine. But why must we keep the legs straight? So there are two different reasons for this. First of all, remember that the dialogue says to keep the knees locked. So what happens when we stretch a muscle? When we stretch a muscle, the body is not particularly accustomed to this due to evolutionary reasons. So when you stretch a muscle, your body is automatically thinking of ways to prevent you from pulling that muscle, right? From overstretching. So what is the body gonna do? It's saying, oh my God, you're stretching me so much. Well, I'm gonna tighten back up. This happens to sort of every muscle. You'll feel a lot of sort of tension when you stretch. So you gotta learn to relax that muscle to really get all of the stretching benefit. So how do we do that? We do that with reciprocal inhibition. So what does that mean? Pretty much engaging the opposite side of the muscle. So this is very often done with the hamstrings. So if you want to stretch your hamstrings, at the same time, you got to engage your quads. When you engage the quads, it is physically impossible for your body to engage the hamstrings. So it is pretty much forced to allow your hamstrings to relax and to get that effective stretch. For example, if you want to stretch out the psoas, the hip flexors, then you gotta squeeze your butt, right, to make that stretch kind of deepen. So that's what we do. We gotta engage the quads, first of all, to make the stretch more effective, to make it more safe, because when you're stretching, but at the same time your body is subconsciously contracting that muscle, that also increases the risk of injury. So we gotta keep the legs super, super strong on the front side to be able to stretch the back side effectively, safely. Now that is reason number one. Reason number two is actually because when one bends the knees, the stretch is automatically directed into the upper part of the hamstring. So when one has the legs bent, you're gonna feel it more sort of closer to your behind, to your butt. That means that you also have a higher risk of injury, because if you're stretching too far into the extremity of the hamstring, then you run the risk of pulling that tendon that connects the hamstring. If you pull that tendon, that is an overstretched hamstring, and I've seen that happen many times. You can prevent that by keeping your legs absolutely straight. Now, it does not matter in this posture if your spine is really rounded, if you can't reach your feet, as long as your legs are really strong, really straight. I mean, even in the dialogue it says if you cannot reach your feet yet, you can just put your hands on the floor in front of you. So if you're really reaching for the floor, it's fine as long as your legs are straight. Legs are number one priority. We do not want to overstretch your hamstring. We do not want to risk injury. So please, legs straight and strong in this posture. So the second posture that we're going to talk about is really a transition, but it is one of the official 26 postures, and that is the sit-up. The sit-up is something that teachers rarely ever address. Sometimes you'll hear people say, if you have a lot of back pain or if you have a slip disc, just skip the sit-up for today, roll over to the side, come up using your hands. So that can be a dangerous transition for people that are having back problems, and especially slip discs, because it's very difficult to get the technique right to make it a safe one. Why? Because it's a very sharp transition. It's a very quick one, and you're supposed to round your spine. So the combination of coming up quickly, rounding the spine, it's very forceful, and if not done right, if you're not engaging your core, it can really hurt your lower back. Let's look at the dialogue first. Toes and heels together. Flex your feet. Keep your heels on the floor. Then it's arms over your head. Cross your thumbs. Arms and head together. I see a lot of people separating the arms and the head, but really we want to keep the arms and head together all throughout the sit-up. Then it says, inhale breathing, quickly sit up. So you want to take a deep breath in, then sit up. As you sit up, exhale breathing, grab your big toes, double jerk. So as you come up, you want to exhale, but sharply. So it's a double jerk. Double jerk means kind of like someone is punching you in the stomach. So it has to be really powerful, forceful. Now you'll notice when you do that, even in the Kapalbhati, snapping that belly in, that forceful exhalation, is gonna engage your abdominal muscles. So the sit-up really aims to engage the deeper core muscles to also make it safe. So in a lot of the rounding postures, like standing head to knee, you'll always hear stomach in, stomach in, stomach in. Protects the lower spine. So belly in, very important. Now this automatically happens as you exhale. You suck your belly in. Then you grab your big toes, touch your forehead on the knees, elbows to the floor. If you just fold forward normally with a straight back, your forehead is not going to touch your knees. You got to touch your forehead to your knees. So really round in, chin to chest, forehead to the knees, and elbows to the floor. Of course, this will depend on your flexibility, but we aim towards that. So the next posture is actually exactly what follows after the sit-up, which is the Bhujangasana, the Cobra Pose. Of course, this is a posture that is found in a lot of different styles of yoga. It is done very differently in different styles. So we have the Kundalini Cobra, which is very different to the sort of Bikram Vinyasa yoga. Now here's the Vinyasa type of Cobra. And then we have the Bikram Cobra, which looks a little bit like that. So what is the Bikram Cobra? What does that mean? Most important thing that I do want to address is the shoulders. So the Cobra is with your back muscle. So this posture specifically, we always say it's amazing for the lower back. It's medicine for the lower back. Why? Because it strengthens the muscles in the lower back. Of course, adding a back bend as well in the lower back is gonna push in a lot of the slip discs that we may have. So double trouble, pushing in slip discs and strengthening the lower back so that it might not happen in the future. So prevention as well as healing. Now, we want to use the lower back. We do not want to use the upper back. How do we avoid using the upper back? Well, by bringing the shoulders down and forward. So in the Vinyasa Cobra, it's more like shoulders pulling back. And if you do that, if you pull your shoulders back, you'll sort of feel the contraction in your upper back, between your shoulder blades, sort of that area. Now, the Bikram Cobra is relaxing the shoulders down. And so in the real Bikram dialogue, it really says, elbows touching your body, drop your shoulders down. So this is the shape of the Cobra hood, right? If you see it from above, this is the Cobra shape. This is sort of more modern Vinyasa alignment. So we want to drop the shoulders down. And there is even a tip here, trapezius muscles visible in the front mirror. So when you pull your shoulders back this way, when you pull your shoulders back, your trapezius muscles are not so visible. Now when you drop your shoulders down, there I see my traps. There it can become visible. In my own dialogue, it says trapezius muscles lengthen. So you really want to drop your shoulders down and think of even pulling your shoulders down, your elbows sort of towards the hips. So that is really in my dialogue, pulling your elbows towards the hips kind of engages the lats, automatically is going to pull your shoulders also down towards the hips. Automatically is going to lengthen the trapezius because you're pulling the shoulders down. Instead of this kind of cramping sensation of the upper back, we want to relax the upper back so that we can focus on the lower back. Because we talked about the shoulders down, of course the chest lifts, but the shoulders down. So there's always this kind of trade-off of like, I want to lift my chest, but I want to lower my shoulders down. I want to bring my elbows in, but automatically this kind of contracts the upper back when you bring your elbows in. But you gotta relax, but you still gotta keep your elbows in, but you gotta push your hands down, but you gotta lift your chest up. So it's a lot of little things going in, and it's always a process of working a little bit more on this, but then you lose that, so you gotta work on that. So this is why it's a never-ending practice. So I really hope you learned something new today. My job as a teacher is to make the practice interesting, fun, safe, exciting for you, so that you don't give up on it. This is like brushing your teeth. You kind of have to do it if you want a healthy body, full body workout, sort of going through every muscle, joint, organ, taking care of your body inside out from bones to skin, fingers to your toes. Amazing practice, cannot recommend it more. And God knows that most practitioners kind of end up in a stalemate where they know the sequence, they've been practicing it for years, they are getting good at the postures, but they don't know those little details that come with workshops, that come with teacher trainings. So my job is to kind of take it beyond that. So the dialogue, that is why it's very, very important, and that's why my classes are very, very focused on the dialogue, because it is so full of knowledge, so full of insights into the postures, and we cannot lose that. That is very, very important, and one of the millions of reasons why the dialogue is such an integral part of the practice. If you want another video on why the dialogue is so important, please let me know. There are so many different levels to this dialogue-led practice that it's really, really a very deep practice when you start to think about it with another perspective. So I hope that you have opened up your mind a little bit, learned something new, and that you can take something from this video into your practice. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you want a similar video with other postures. And I really hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video. Bye bye.